He thought he was saving an ordinary woman from drowning. But that single act of kindness changed his life forever. When love meets the supernatural, when mercy awakens destiny, the river never forgets. Will Chick's pure heart save him, or will Mummy Water claim what belongs to her? Watch this unforgettable African story of love, sacrifice, and mystery that will keep you on the edge till the last second. The river had always been a place of fear and fascination in Alioma village. By day, it shimmered with light, carrying the laughter of women, washing clothes, and the splash of children playing near the banks. But when the sun began to sink, and the shadows lengthened over the Oma River, silence took hold, the kind that made the air feel alive with unseen eyes. Everyone knew the old warning, do not go near the river after sunset. The water listens, and the water remembers. But that evening, Cheek had no choice. A strong wind had overturned his canoe earlier, and his fishing net, his only means of survival, had been carried away by the current. Without it, his family would go hungry. The moon was just rising when he reached the riverbank, the silver glow stretching over the surface like a mirror of another world. Then he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A cry. A woman's cry. At first, he thought it was a bird, or the echo of his own thoughts. But then he saw her, a figure thrashing in the water, her hands breaking the surface, her voice desperate. Help, please. Chick's heart pounded. The villagers' stories rushed through his mind. The tales of Mami Wata, the water spirit, who lured men with beauty before dragging them into the deep. But the cry sounded so human, so helpless. Without thinking, he jumped into the river. The water was colder than he'd ever felt, biting into his skin as he fought the current. He reached her just as she began to sink. Her skin glowed faintly under the moonlight, her hair spreading like dark silk around her face. When he pulled her close, she felt weightless, like water itself. Hold on, he gasped, struggling toward the bank. She didn't speak, but her eyes, those eyes, locked on his, deep, dark, and endless, like the river itself. By the time he reached the shore, she lay motionless in his arms. Her lips were pale, her pulse faint. He placed her on the sand, pressing her chest, whispering a prayer. Then she coughed. Water spilled from her mouth as she gasped for breath. Chike exhaled with relief and brushed the wet strands of hair from her face. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. She looked at him, a slow, haunting gaze, and smiled faintly. "I am now," she whispered, her voice calm and strange, almost melodic. Cheek wrapped his cloth around her shoulders. "You should not be here at this hour." The river brought me," she said, cutting him off. Her tone was gentle, but something about her words chilled him. Then lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a rumble of thunder that shook the ground. When Chicky turned back, she was already standing, her wet clothes clinging to her, her eyes glimmering gold for a moment before fading back to black. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice trembling. She tilted her head, as if searching his soul before replying. "Amara." And before he could say another word, the wind howled, lifting the river's mist around them. And she was gone. Chicky stared at the empty bank, his heart hammering. The river rippled as though laughing. Somewhere deep within its depths, a soft voice whispered his name. Chike, he froze. No one was there, only the river and its secret that had just begun to unfold. The morning sun spilled over Alioma, turning the mist above the Oma River into streaks of gold. Chike sat on the threshold of his mother's hut, staring at his wet fishing net spread out to dry. It was the same net he had thought lost forever. Yet somehow, when he woke before dawn, he found it neatly folded beside his door. No footprints in the sand. No sign of who had placed it there. Just the net, whole and glistening like new. Mama Ogechi stepped out, her head wrapped in a faded cloth. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. Cheek shook his head. He hadn't told her about the woman, the way she vanished like mist. He tried to convince himself it was just exhaustion playing tricks on him. But deep down, he knew what he'd seen. His mother's eyes narrowed. "You went to the river after sunset, didn't you?" Chaik froze. "How did you—" "Because I heard the river call your name," she whispered. "It only does that when it wants something." Before he could reply, a sudden rustling drew their attention. A group of villagers was gathering near the market square, murmuring. A strange glow was rising from the riverbank. Chiki followed the crowd, his heart pounding. There, at the edge of the water, lay dozens of fish, fat, silver, and fresh, shimmering as though just pulled from the depths. The villagers cheered, praising the spirits for the blessing. Elder Namdi raised his staff. "The river has spoken," he declared. "Alayoma is blessed this day." But as Chiki stared at the fish, he saw something no one else seemed to notice. A trail of wet footprints, leading from the water to where he stood. Small, delicate feet, bare, glistening. That night, as the village celebrated, Chaik sat alone by his hut. The sound of drums echoed in the distance, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the river was watching him. He turned at the faint rustle behind him, and there she was, Amara. She stood at the edge of the light, her white gown moving softly in the breeze, her hair still damp as though she'd just stepped from the water. "You found your net," she said, her voice calm and gentle. Chiki rose slowly, unsure whether to be afraid or grateful. "Was that you?" She smiled faintly. "The river returns what is owed." Her eyes caught the moonlight again, the same strange golden shimmer. "Who are you truly, so?" he asked. Her smile deepened, but her answer came like a whisper carried by the wind. "I am what you called for." Chiki stepped closer. "I didn't call for anyone." "Oh, you did," she said softly. "When you jumped into the water, you asked for more than you knew." He swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" She took a slow step forward, her presence filling the air with a scent like rain and lilies. "Nothing. Yet." Then she touched his hand, her skin cool, smooth, almost unreal. A surge of warmth shot through him, spreading from his chest to his fingertips. Before he could speak, she turned away, her hair catching the moonlight like flowing silver. "When the river gives," she said, "it also takes." And just like the night before, a gust of wind lifted the dust, and she was gone. The next morning, Chiki woke to find his small fishing canoe filled with fish, more than he'd ever caught in a week. The villagers called it a miracle. But when he touched the fish, he saw something glinting among them, a single gold scale, no bigger than a coin, shining with the light of the river itself. And deep inside, a chill ran through him. Because he knew the river's gift had come with a price. The days that followed felt unreal. Every morning, Chaik returned to the Oma River, and every time his canoe touched the water, the fish came in plenty. The people of Alayoma began to whisper his name with wonder. Chaik, the Blessed One. But blessings have shadows. One evening, as the village prepared for the moon festival, Cheek noticed that the fish he caught glowed faintly in the dark, their eyes dull and glassy, as though something ancient stared back through them. When he mentioned it to Mama Ogechi, her expression darkened. "Stop fishing for a while," she warned. "The spirits don't bless without reason." Chiki nodded, but inside he felt torn. The wealth was changing his life. Villagers greeted him with respect, and for the first time, his mother smiled without worry. Yet every night, when he closed his eyes, he dreamed of Amara, her voice calling his name beneath the sound of rushing water. And always, in those dreams, she stood by the river, her hair floating around her face like smoke, whispering, "Come back." One night, unable to resist, he obeyed. The moon hung full and low when he reached the riverbank. Mist rose from the water, wrapping around him like breath. Then, slowly, the surface rippled, and Amara appeared. She wore a white wrap that shimmered like moonlight, her eyes glowing faintly as she smiled at him. "You came. I shouldn't have," he said. "The elders, they say the river must be respected. They say they fear what they don't understand." She interrupted softly. "Do you fear me, Chiki?" Her words were gentle, but her gaze held something deeper, a pull he couldn't explain. He tried to speak, but his voice caught. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Amara took a step closer. "Then believe what you see." She reached out, her hand brushing his cheek. It was cool, soothing, and yet his heart raced like a drum. For a moment, he forgot the stories, the warnings, the danger. He only saw her and her beauty, her sadness, her impossible presence. "I wanted to thank you," she said softly. "You saved me." "Few would have dared. You disappeared," he said. "I thought I dreamed it all." Her lips curved faintly. "The river doesn't forget those who touch it." The words lingered like perfume. Then, as he blinked, she stepped back toward the water. He reached out instinctively. "Wait." But she only smiled. That same haunting, beautiful smile. "Don't follow the current, chick. Not unless you are ready to lose what you love." Before he could ask what she meant, she sank slowly beneath the surface. No splash, no ripple, only silence. When he returned home, drenched and trembling, Mama Ogechi was waiting. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "Nowhere," he lied, his voice barely steady. She stared into his eyes for a long moment, then sighed deeply. "You've seen her." He froze. "The woman of the river," she whispered. "Mami Wata, the one who gives and takes. You've drawn her attention, my son. And once she chooses, there's no escape." Outside, the wind rose suddenly, whistling through the palm trees. Chiki felt it, that same strange pull, like invisible fingers brushing his heart. He didn't know if it was love or a curse. But one thing was certain. Amara was not done with him, and neither was the river. The village of Alayoma awoke to whispers. The river had changed overnight. Its waters, once clear and calm, now shimmered with a faint golden hue, as though kissed by the hands of the divine. The elders called it a sign. The young called it a blessing. But Mama Ogechi called it a warning. For days, Chaiki avoided the river. He tried to busy himself repairing nets and tending his mother's farm. But no matter what he did, the river seemed to follow him. His fishing baskets overflowed with fresh tilapia, even when he had not cast his net. Coins, old, golden ones from forgotten kingdoms, appeared on his doorstep. Each morning, he found them glistening with drops of river water. People began to talk. "Chike has been chosen by the river," they said. "Mami Wata has blessed his hands." Women brought gifts to his hut, yam, palm wine, even cloth, hoping his luck would rub off on their families. The elders sent for him to attend council meetings, though he had no title. Even the village chief greeted him with the words, "The river walks beside you now." But Chike did not feel blessed. At night, his dreams were restless. He would hear the river's song calling through the wind. A woman's voice, soft, distant, humming a tune that seemed to live in his bones. Sometimes he woke to find his bedsheet damp, as though mist had settled inside his room. He tried to pray, but even in his prayers, the voice answered back. On the seventh night, unable to bear it any longer, he walked to the riverbank. The moon hung, heavy and bright. The golden shimmer on the water pulsed like a heartbeat. He felt drawn, pulled by something he couldn't name. She was there, Amara. Her gown floated like mist over the current. Her eyes glowing softly, reflecting both moonlight and sorrow. "You shouldn't have come back," Chike said, though his voice trembled. She smiled faintly. "You speak as if you could stay away." He stepped closer, his heart drumming. "Why me, Amara? What do you want from me?" "The river chose you," she said quietly. "And when the river chooses, it gives and it takes." Her words cut through the air. "What does it want to take?" She looked at him for a long moment, then reached out her hand, but stopped just before touching him. "Something you will not offer willingly." He swallowed hard. "My life? Perhaps your life," she whispered. "Or perhaps something even deeper." Before he could ask more, the water behind her rippled violently. Faces, pale, glowing, mournful, rose briefly beneath the surface, eyes wide with silent cries. Cheek stumbled back, his breath caught. "What are they?" when he gasped. "Those who asked for more than they could bear," she said, her voice heavy with regret. The sound of her words wrapped around him like a spell, fear, pity, longing, all tangled into one. He wanted to run, but something inside him refused to leave. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked. "Because," she said softly, "you still have a choice." Then she stepped backward into the river. The golden glow spread like fire through the water, and she vanished beneath the waves. When he returned home, Mama Ogechi was waiting by the fire, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. "You saw her again," she said. It wasn't a question. Chike hesitated, his voice low. "She's not what I thought. She's beautiful. But there's something dark in her eyes. Something sad." Mama Ogechi's eyes narrowed. "Evil hides behind beauty. That's how it traps the living. You must stay away from the river, my son." "I can't," Chike said. "She needs me." "Then you are already lost," she whispered. That night, sleep abandoned him. When he finally drifted off, he dreamed of Amara again, standing in the middle of the river, holding something glowing in her hands. He stepped closer and saw it was his heart, still beating. Her voice echoed through the dream. "You gave it to me the moment you pulled me from the water." He woke with a jolt, his chest cold, breath ragged. Outside, the wind carried a faint melody, the same haunting tune. The river was calling again, and this time he was afraid that if he answered, he might never come back. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Chike could feel the change in Aleoma. It was no longer the cheerful village where laughter echoed by the riverbanks. Now, people lowered their voices when he passed. Some women crossed the road. Children hid behind their mothers. The word Ogbanje drifted through the air like a curse. The river's golden glow had not faded. It pulsed brighter each dawn, spilling its reflection across the farmlands. The fishermen whispered that nets cast into the water came up filled with fish that had eyes like humans. The elders met in the square to pray. They burned incense and poured libations, but nothing changed. The river sang at night, and everyone in Alayoma dreamed of a woman's voice humming softly through the wind. Only Chiki did not dream, because he could no longer sleep. Every night, Amara appeared to him, sometimes in his room, her body made of mist and moonlight, sometimes in his thoughts, whispering words that were half comfort, half command. "Why do you run from what you already belong to?" she asked one night. Chiki turned away from her shimmering form. "I don't belong to the river, Amara. I belong here, to my people." She smiled sadly. "Your people fear what they cannot understand. They will never love you the way I do." Her words wrapped around him like soft waves. He wanted to deny it, but she was right. The village's fear had become hatred. His friends no longer visited. Mama Ogechi prayed for him day and night, sprinkling palm wine at his doorway. Even Elder Namdi, who once praised him, now refused to look him in the eye. Still, Amara's presence was intoxicating. When she touched his hand, warmth flooded through him. When she smiled, his fears dissolved. He felt alive only when she was near. Then one afternoon, a tragedy struck. A young boy named Ibuka drowned while fetching water from the river. His mother wailed in the square, screaming that the river had taken her child. When they pulled the boy's body from the water, his skin shimmered faintly, like gold dust. The villagers turned their eyes to Chiki. "It began when he saved the woman," they murmured. "Ever since that day, the river has not rested." The rumors grew teeth. By evening, stones were thrown at his hut. "Return what you brought from the water," they shouted. Mama Ogechi tried to speak for him, but her voice was drowned out by the angry cries. When night came, Chiki sat alone inside his hut. The village had gone quiet, but the river's song was louder than ever. He pressed his hands to his ears, trembling. "Leave me alone," he whispered, but the air shimmered, and suddenly she was there. Amara stood before him, her eyes full of sorrow. "You can't silence the river, Chike. It calls what belongs to it." He rose to his feet, desperate. "Then tell it to stop. People are dying. I never asked for this." "You asked when you pulled me from the water," she said gently. "The river saw your heart, and it claimed you." He stared at her, anger burning behind his fear. "You speak of the river as if it lives." "It does," she whispered. "And now, so do you, through it." He backed away, shaking his head. "No, I'm human. I have a mother, a home." Her eyes softened. "And yet, your soul beats with the rhythm of the river. You hear its call even when you close your ears. Tell me, Chike, can any man resist what his soul belongs to?" For the first time, tears stung his eyes. "Then what am I, Amara?" She stepped close, her voice breaking like soft thunder. "You are the one who woke me, the one who must choose." "Choose what?" "To stay with your people," she said, her gaze trembling, "or to walk with me beneath the river, where time forgets your name." Chick's heart froze. He wanted to speak, but the wind rushed through the hut, carrying the sound of water. The flame of his lantern flickered blue, then went out. Darkness, silence. Then her voice, soft, echoing, "The river will not wait forever." She disappeared, leaving only a thin stream of water pooling at his feet. The next morning, when Chiki opened his door, he found a trail of golden fish scales leading from his doorstep down to the riverbank. The villagers saw it too. They said it was a mark, a sign that the river spirit had chosen her husband. That evening, Mama Ogechi packed her bag and went to the priest of the grove. "My son is slipping away," she said. "If the gods will not save him, I will." But the priest shook his head gravely. "The river has written his name already. Only the one who cast the spell can break it." She knew then what she must do. The night was thick with fog when Mama Ogechi walked toward the sacred grove. Crickets sang their restless song, and the air smelled of wet earth and fear. She carried nothing but a calabash filled with palm oil and a charm of cowries strung together by the old priest. Her bare feet left prints on the moist ground, vanishing as soon as she took another step. The priest had warned her, "Once you call the river, it will answer, and it will not come kindly." But a mother's fear is stronger than any curse. She reached the riverbank, kneeling before the golden water that pulsed faintly under the moonlight. "Oma River," she said in trembling voice, "take what is mine, but spare my son." For a while, there was only silence. Then the wind shifted, cold and sharp. The water rippled, and from its depths came a soft humming, the same melody that haunted Cheek's dreams. A shadow rose from the river, graceful and tall, her eyes glowing like moonfire. It was Amara. "You should not have come," Amara said, her voice calm but heavy. "The river's claim cannot be undone." Mama Ogechi lifted her chin, unafraid. "Then I will bargain. You took my son's peace. Take mine instead." Amara tilted her head, almost in pity. "You don't understand, Mother. Your son was never free to begin with." "What do you mean?" Ogechi demanded. Amara's gaze turned toward the moonlit water. "Many years ago, before you gave birth to Chike, the river made a covenant with your bloodline. Your husband, the man you called Uzoma, once came to the river seeking fortune. He offered his first son in exchange for wealth. But the river took his promise, not his words. When your husband died, the debt remained. And now the river collects." Mama Ogechi's breath caught. "No, Chiki was only a boy when his father died." Amara stepped closer. "Fate doesn't measure time, Mother. The river remembers what men forget." The old woman's knees shook. "Then why him? Why not me?" Amara's face softened, sadness flickering in her eyes. "Because Cheek's heart was pure. The river saw it and called him home. It is not punishment. It is destiny." Mama Ogechi spat into the sand. "I don't believe in destiny that destroys the living." Amara's form flickered, her voice echoing like thunder across the water. "You speak against what you cannot fight. The river is older than your gods," the wind howled. The calabash in Ogechi's hand shattered, spilling palm oil into the water. The river hissed, a deep, angry sound that shook the ground beneath her feet. But the old woman did not move. She lifted her hands to the sky and cried, "If the river wants blood, it must take mine." A bright light burst from the water, blinding her. The air shimmered with gold. For a heartbeat she saw faces, spirits swirling around Amara, whispering songs of sorrow. Then everything went still. When Ogechi opened her eyes, Amara was gone. The water was calm again, silent, almost peaceful. But on the sand before her lay a small object, a single golden scale, glowing faintly like fire. She picked it up, trembling. "What are you?" she whispered. A voice rose behind her, low, masculine, and unfamiliar. "Something your son can no longer resist." She turned sharply. From the shadows stepped a tall figure dressed in dark cloth, his eyes the same eerie gold as the river. His skin shimmered faintly, and when he smiled, the moonlight reflected off teeth, too white, too perfect. "I am Ezenwata, guardian of the river," he said. "And you, woman, have awakened a debt that should have stayed buried." Ogechi's knees weakened, but she held her ground. "If you come for my son, you'll have to pass through me first." Ezenwata's laughter rolled like waves. "Bravery. That's why the river favored your blood. But bravery cannot change fate." He raised a hand, and the river stirred. Ripples stretched toward the horizon like veins of gold. The sound of drums echoed faintly, though none were playing. The guardian's eyes glowed brighter. "When the moon rises full again, your son will walk into the water. No man can stop it, not even love." Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he vanished, leaving only mist and the whisper of rushing water. Mama Ogechi fell to her knees, clutching the glowing scale to her chest. "If love cannot stop it," she murmured, tears streaking her cheeks, "then I will find something that can." By dawn, she was gone from the village, heading toward the eastern hills where the oracle of the Red Earth was said to dwell. Only the echo of her vow remained. "The river will not take my son." The sun rose crimson over Alayoma, bathing the village in an eerie light. The river glistened gold beneath it, silent and watchful, like a god waiting for a prayer it would not answer. In the heart of that stillness, Chiki sat alone inside his hut. His reflection in a bowl of water no longer looked like his own. His eyes, once brown, now carried a faint shimmer, and the lines of his face seemed to ripple like water when he moved. He tried to speak, but sometimes, when he opened his mouth, his voice carried an echo, like two people speaking through him. He was changing, and he could feel it. That morning, when he stepped outside, the air bent strangely around him. The villagers stopped and stared. Children whispered, "He is no longer one of us." Even the dogs avoided him. Far away, beyond the eastern hills, Mama Ogechi climbed the red-soiled path toward the oracle. Her legs ached, but she refused to stop. Every tree, every rustle of the wind, seemed to whisper her son's name. When she finally reached the hilltop shrine, she found a woman sitting in the dust. Her hair gray as ash, her eyes clouded white. Around her were gourds, bones, and feathers painted in blood. Without raising her head, the old woman said, "You seek to challenge the river." "Yes," Mama Ogechi replied. "It wants my son." The oracle's thin lips curved into a smile. "Then it has already touched his soul." "The river never takes what it has not first tasted," Ogechi knelt. "Tell me what to do. I will give anything." The oracle reached into a clay pot and drew out a shimmering black stone. "There is a way, but it comes with a price heavier than grief." "I am ready," Ogechi said. The oracle looked at her, and for a moment, her white eyes flickered with faint gold. "You must go to the sacred cave beneath the Oma River. There lies the heart of Mamiwata. If you destroy it before the next full moon, your son will be free." Mama Ogechi's voice trembled. "And if I fail, then your son will not die," the oracle whispered. "He will live forever, but not as a man." A cold wind passed through the shrine. The oracle leaned closer, Take this stone. It will burn if the river lies. And remember, the closer you walk to the truth, the louder the water will sing. Back in ADEMOYE, the villagers gathered at the square. The elders spoke in hushed voices, glancing toward Chike's hut. "He is cursed," one said. "The spirit lives within him." Another added, "If he remains, the river will consume us all." Before long, they came to his door with fire. Chike stepped outside, unafraid. "What are you doing?" An elder raised a torch. "You must leave, or we will drive you into the water yourself." But as they shouted, the air changed. A sudden gust blew through the square, strong enough to scatter dust and extinguish every flame. The villagers gasped. The river had risen, silently, swiftly, flooding the path that led into the village. From its heart came a melody, sweet and sorrowful. And then she appeared. Amara. She stood on the water as if it were glass, her eyes bright, her beauty unearthly. The villagers fell to their knees. "Do not harm him," she said. Her voice rippled like music through their minds. "He is mine." Chike looked at her with pain in his eyes. "Why do you keep doing this?" "They'll never understand." Amara's gaze softened. "You saved me, Chike. Now I will save you. From them, from yourself, from the promise you were born into." The water beneath her shimmered, rising into small waves. "Come with me," she said. "Let the river make you whole." He shook his head. "I don't belong to the river." She smiled sadly. "Then why does it sing your name?" The villagers began to scream and scatter as the water reached their feet. Amara stretched out her hand toward Chike. He hesitated, but then something deep inside him stirred. The river's hum pulsed in his chest. His heart began to beat in rhythm with it, a slow, heavy thud that shook the air around him. Amara's eyes glowed brighter. "You feel it, don't you? The river remembers its own." He fell to his knees, clutching his chest. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "If the river wants blood, it must take mine." But she was miles away, and he was alone with the spirit he could not resist. Amara bent low, her voice breaking like the sound of 1,000 drops. "You cannot fight destiny, Chike. The river flows where it must." As her fingers brushed his face, the world around him went silent. The villagers, the noise, the wind, all vanished. Only the water sang. And when he looked up again, Amara was gone, but her reflection lingered in the puddles, smiling softly. At that same moment, miles away, Mama Ogechi stood before the mouth of the sacred cave. The river roared above her, and the black stone in her palm began to glow red-hot. The oracle's words echoed in her mind. "The closer you walk to the truth, the louder the water will." The cave beneath the Omo River breathed like something alive. Each gust of wind carried the sound of water whispering, echoing through the stone walls. Mama Ogechi moved carefully, one hand on the damp rocks, the other gripping the glowing black stone the oracle had given her. Its heat pulsed against her skin like a heartbeat. The air grew colder as she descended. The deeper she went, the louder the song of the river became, soft at first, then swelling into a haunting melody that wrapped around her mind like smoke. It was the same song she had heard in her son's nightmares. After what felt like hours, she reached a great underground chamber. At its center floated a pool of golden water, glowing with an unearthly light. The current moved in perfect rhythm, though there was no wind, no source. And above the pool hung a shape, a heart suspended in water, beating slowly. She gasped. The heart of Mami Wata. As she approached, voices began to murmur from the water. You should not have come, mortal. Leave before the river remembers your name. But Mama Ogechi stood firm. I came for my son. From the golden pool, ripples spread outward, and from its center rose Amara, her beauty terrible and divine. Her hair floated like black silk, her eyes bright as the sun. But there was no malice in her face, only sorrow. You were warned, Amara said. You seek to break what cannot be broken. I seek to free my child, Ogechi replied, holding up the glowing stone. You took his peace. You won't take his soul, Amara's expression softened. Do you truly think I am your enemy? You cursed him. I saved him, Amara said quietly. The river marked him long before he knew my name. His blood carries the river's promise. Without me, he would already be dead. Mama Ogechi frowned. What are you saying? Amara stepped closer, the golden water swirling around her. Long ago, your husband sought the river's blessing. In return, he gave his firstborn to the deep, a child who would bridge the world of men and spirits. That child was Chiki. He is not just human, Mama Ogechi. He is the river's heir, the old woman's breath caught. No, that cannot be. The river gave him its strength, Amara continued. But the human world rejects what it cannot understand. If Chiki stays here, he will die, torn between two worlds. The only way he can live is to return to the water where he belongs. Ogechi's voice cracked. And if I destroy your heart? Amara's eyes glimmered sadly. Then you destroy him too. The black stone in Ogechi's hand flared bright red. She felt her resolve waver. For a moment, she saw her son's face. Frightened, lost, changing. What do you want from him? She whispered. I want nothing, Amara said softly. But the river demands balance. Chick's spirit is the bridge between man and water. Through him, the two worlds can live in peace again. Ogechi shook her head fiercely. No peace comes from pain. He deserves a life, not a destiny. Amara's gaze darkened. Would you steal from the gods to give comfort to the living? Then I'll fight the gods if I must, Ogechi cried. With trembling hands, she raised the stone and threw it into the golden pool. The chamber erupted with light. The water hissed, twisting and churning like a storm. The suspended heart shuddered violently, cracks of light running through it. Amara screamed, not in anger, but in sorrow. Do you know what you've done? The walls trembled. The golden light dimmed, replaced by a dark, swirling current. Mama Ogechi stumbled back, shielding her face as wind howled around her. When the roar faded, Amara was gone. The pool was black again, silent, its glow extinguished. The old woman fell to her knees, gasping. The stone had vanished. All that remained was a faint hum, like the echo of a dying heartbeat. Then, silence. Ogechi rose slowly, her chest tight with fear. Please, let him live, she whispered. Take me instead. No voice answered. But far above, in the village of ADEMOYE, thunder rolled across the sky. The river began to churn violently, waves crashing against its banks, and in the middle of it all, Chike collapsed, clutching his chest as the world spun around him. He heard her voice one last time, Amara's whisper, fading into the storm. Goodbye, my love. The river always remembers, then everything went dark. Rain poured over ADEMOYE like a curse. The villagers huddled in their huts, whispering prayers and lighting palm oil lamps. The river that once gave them life now boiled like a living creature, spilling over its banks and swallowing the farmlands. In the heart of the storm, Chiki awoke. His body ached, his throat dry as sand. He was lying on the riverbank, his clothes torn, mud clinging to his skin. The sound of thunder echoed in his ears like a drum. When he tried to stand, pain shot through his chest. He looked down and gasped. Thin, glowing lines ran across his skin like cracks in glass, pulsing faintly with blue light, the same mark Amara had touched before. "What happened to me?" he whispered. No one answered. Only the wind, carrying faint cries from the village. He stumbled toward the sound, his feet heavy, the rain blinding his eyes. By the time he reached the square, chaos had taken hold. The villagers were shouting, running from the rising water. Elder Namdi stood before the shrine, raising his staff toward the sky. "This is no ordinary storm," he cried. "The gods are angry. Someone has broken the covenant of the river." Mama Ogechi pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with guilt and fear. "Elder, we can fix this," she pleaded. "Please, the river will listen." "The river listens to no one now," the old man snapped. His eyes fell on Chaike, staggering into the square. "There, he carries the river's mark. It's him!" Gasps filled the air. The people stepped back. Some whispered prayers. Others grabbed sticks, stones, anything to protect themselves. Chaike looked around, trembling. "Please, I don't understand." Elder Namdi pointed his staff. "The spirit he saved has bound itself to him." The woman was no mortal. She was Mami Wata herself. And now, because of their bond, the river's heart is broken. At those words, Mama Ogechi fell to her knees, sobbing. "It's my fault. I destroyed the heart to save him." The elder turned sharply. "You destroyed the heart of the river?" His voice trembled with fury. "Then you have doomed us all." The storm intensified. Lightning split the sky, striking the great Oma tree by the riverbank. Flames burst into the rain, a horrifying mix of fire and water. Cheek felt something stir inside him, a force that wasn't his. His vision blurred. He could hear the river speaking in his mind, its voice 1,000 whispers. "Return to me, or all will drown." He clutched his head and fell to the ground. His body shook violently, and the markings on his skin began to glow brighter, spreading up his arms and neck. The villagers screamed. "Kill him," someone shouted, "before the spirit takes us all." Mama Ogechi threw herself over her son. "No, he is not the enemy." Elder Namdi hesitated. His wrinkled face was torn between duty and compassion. But the storm didn't wait for him to decide. A wave rose from the river, towering, shimmering, with a strange light. It wasn't water anymore. It was alive. The villagers froze as a woman's form appeared within the surge. Amara, her face pale and sorrowful. "Stop!" she cried, her voice echoing across the land. "He is not your curse. He is your bridge." The people fell to their knees, terrified. But before she could step forward, her form flickered. She was fading. The heart that had sustained her was gone. Chaik reached out to her. "Amara," her voice trembled. "The river is dying." "And so am I." He tried to move closer, but the ground beneath him cracked. The river roared, pulling at his feet. He could feel it calling to him, not in anger, but in desperation. Mama Ogechi screamed, holding him tight. "You can't go. I won't lose you." Chaik's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, I think you already did." Then, without warning, the river surged upward and swallowed him whole. The villagers screamed as the waves collapsed, and silence followed. The rain stopped. The wind died. Only the river moved, calm, still, and deep. Elder Namdi dropped to his knees, staff shaking. "The sacrifice has been made," he whispered. "The river has taken what it is owed." Mama Ogechi stared at the water, her heart hollow. "No," she said softly, her voice breaking. "The river took my son, but I will bring him back." The villagers looked at her in fear, whispering her name like a curse, but she didn't care. She stood, eyes burning with determination. "I will not let the gods decide his fate," she said. "If the river took him, then I will go to the river." As she turned toward the dark current, lightning flashed once more, and for an instant she saw a faint figure beneath the surface. Chiki, his eyes glowing like stars, watching her. Then he was gone. Night fell over Alayoma like a heavy shroud. The storm had passed, but the river still whispered, restless, alive, hungry. No frog croaked, no owl sang. It was as though every creature held its breath, fearing what the dawn might bring. In her small hut, Mama Ogechi sat before the dying fire. The faces of the villagers haunted her, their fear, their blame, their sorrow, but none of that mattered. Her heart was already buried beneath the river with her son. She rose slowly, her joints aching, and went to her chest of relics. Inside were the sacred items of her late husband, a fisherman who had once been blessed by the river. A small gourd, a carved comb, and a cowrie shell necklace. She tied the necklace around her neck and whispered, "Chike, my child, tonight your mother comes for you." Outside, the moon glowed red over the river. The air shimmered faintly, the boundary between worlds thinning. The villagers, seeing her walk toward the water, gathered at a distance. Some begged her to stop. "Don't go, Mama Ogechi," one cried. "The river takes and never returns." But she didn't look back. She waded into the dark current, step by step, until the water reached her chest. Then she raised the gourd to her lips and drank. The liquid inside burned like fire, and then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer standing in water. She stood in a vast expanse of silver mist. The river stretched endlessly before her, glowing faintly from within. She was in the spirit depths, the realm of Mami Wata. The silence there was beautiful and terrible. Fish, made of light, swam through the air. Trees grew upside down, their roots reaching toward the heavens. Mama Ogechi's bare feet left ripples of fire on the ground. Then a voice spoke behind her, soft, melodic, and cold. "You mortals never learn when to let go." She turned. Amara stood on the water's surface, her dress flowing like the tide, her eyes glowing with sorrow and power. "You shouldn't be here," Amara said. "You belong to the earth, not the river." "I came for my son," Ogechi replied, her voice steady. "You took him. I will take him back." Amara's expression darkened. "You cannot? The bond is sealed. He is part of me now, part of the water. To pull him from it would destroy him, then let me share his fate." Amara hesitated, her gaze softening. "You don't understand what you ask. The river is eternal, but it is also cruel. It remembers every sorrow, every sin. Do you wish to carry that forever?" Mama Ogechi stepped closer. "I carried sorrow from the day I buried his father. I carried pain when I saw hunger in my child's eyes. I can carry the river too, Amara studied her for a long moment. Then she lifted her hand. The water around them parted, revealing a deep chasm below, glowing blue and gold. In its depths, Chicky floated, suspended in light, his eyes closed. His spirit sleeps, Amara said softly. He dreams of both worlds, but belongs to neither. If you call to him, he may awaken, but if he does, he will forget everything. You, me, the village. He will live, but not as he was. Tears rolled down Ogechi's cheeks. If he lives, that is enough. Amara's face tightened. You would sacrifice memory for life? Yes, Ogechi whispered. Because love remembers, even when the mind does not. Something flickered in Amara's eyes, a trace of humanity. She raised both hands, and the river began to hum. Then speak his name and let fate decide. Ogechi stepped to the edge of the chasm and shouted, Chicky! The sound echoed endlessly. The glowing current began to twist, forming a spiral of light. Chick's eyes fluttered open. Mama? He whispered. The ground trembled. A great shadow rose from the depths. The spirit of the deep, older than Amara, older than time. Its voice rumbled through the water. No mortal may unbind what the river claims. Ogechi stood firm. Then take me instead. The spirit roared, sending waves crashing around her. Amara's power flared, golden and blue, as she tried to hold back the chaos. He will die if you do this. Then let my life be the bridge, Ogechi cried. Let him walk free on the land, and let me sleep in the river. The spirit paused. The waters stilled. Then slowly the current began to reverse. The light around Chicky dimmed and flowed into his mother. She gasped as it entered her chest, her body trembling with the power of the deep. Chike's body rose to the surface, lifeless but breathing. His eyes opened, human once more. Mama, he cried, but she only smiled faintly, her form already fading. Live well, my son, and remember the river's mercy. Then she was gone, her spirit sinking gently into the current, her body dissolving into silver mist. Amara knelt beside the glowing water, tears mixing with the river. You mortals, she whispered. You love even when it destroys you. The spirit of the deep rumbled again. And that is why they endure. When Chicky awoke on the riverbank, the dawn was breaking. The storm had passed. The river was calm. And though he could not remember all that had happened, he felt peace and an ache deep within, like the memory of a dream too sacred to speak. Morning came soft and golden over Alayoma village, as though the sky itself was weary from too much weeping. For the first time in weeks, the river flowed gentle and clear. Birds returned to sing in the trees, and the villagers, trembling and unsure, crept from their huts to see what miracle had taken place overnight. And there, lying on the riverbank, was Chicky. His body was cold but alive, his chest rising slowly with each breath. His eyes opened to a world that felt both new and strangely familiar. The last thing he remembered was the storm, the shouting, and a voice calling his name. He tried to grasp it, but it slipped through his mind like water through fingers. Chike! Cried Elder Namdi, rushing to his side. You live! The villagers gathered around, whispering in disbelief. Mama Ogechi was nowhere to be seen. Some said she had fled into the forest. Others whispered she had become one with the river. Chike sat up slowly, his head pounding. Where's my mother? He asked weakly. The elder's expression darkened. The river took her. Chike blinked, confused. Took her? What do you mean? Elder Namdi sighed deeply. She went after you, boy. She fought the spirit itself. The gods alone know what bargain she made. Chiki looked toward the river, silent. The water shimmered under the morning sun, calm and beautiful, too calm. Deep in his chest, he felt a strange ache, a weight he couldn't explain. It wasn't pain, exactly. It was absence. Days passed, and life in Ademoye began to mend. The villagers rebuilt their homes, replanted their crops, and returned to their daily routines. The river's rage had left fertile soil behind, a strange blessing born of chaos. But for Chiki, peace was hollow. He walked to the river every evening, standing at its edge as the sun bled into the horizon. He didn't know why, but something in him longed for the sound of a woman's voice carried on the wind. One night, as he stood by the water, he heard it, a faint melody rising from the current. It wasn't just sound. It was memory, feeling, love. The same tune his mother used to hum while cooking, the one she said she learned from the river. He knelt by the water, whispering, "Mama?" The ripples spread outward, glowing faintly. For a moment, he saw her reflection, her gentle smile. Her eyes filled with pride. Then it vanished. He stumbled back, heart racing. Am I losing my mind? From the shadows of the trees, Elder Namdi watched silently. Later that night, he came to Chick's hut, carrying a carved bowl of sacred herbs. You have her eyes when you look at the river, he said softly. The same courage, the same madness. What do you mean? Chike asked. The old man sat beside him. The river does not forget, Chick. It keeps what it loves. Your mother gave herself to it, not as a sacrifice, but as a guardian. She watches still. Cheeky frowned. You think she's alive? In a way, Namdi said. The water changes all who enter. Some become lost. Some become legend. Night, Cheeky dreamed. He stood in the middle of the river, the moon hanging low and full above him. The water glowed around his feet. From its depths rose a figure, not Amara, but Mama Ogechi. Her form shimmered like mist, her face calm and radiant. My son, she said, her voice echoing through the night, you live because love remembers what time forgets. He reached out to her, tears filling his eyes. Come back, Mama. She shook her head. No, Cheek. My place is here now. But the river will always guide you. Protect it, honor it, and it will protect you. The dream faded as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. When Chicky awoke, his hands were wet, and beside him lay a single cowrie shell, the same one his mother once wore. He clutched it tightly, his heart trembling. The memory of her song filled his chest once more. From that day on, Chicky became the river's keeper. He built a small shrine by the bank, not of worship, but of remembrance. Travelers came from far and near to hear the story of the young man who saved a spirit, and the mother who saved him. The villagers no longer feared the river. They sang to it at sunrise, left offerings at dusk, and told their children, the river never forgets those who love it. Sometimes at night, when the moon shone bright and the wind was still, the villagers swore they saw two figures gliding across the water, a woman of light and a young man beside her, both smiling as the current carried them onward. Years passed. The river that once raged through Ademoye became the village's lifeline again. Fishermen cast their nets each dawn with prayers on their lips. Children played by its banks, their laughter echoing through the forest. Peace had returned, But it was not the same peace as before. It was quieter, deeper, as if the river itself remembered. Jake had grown into a man now, tall, strong, and thoughtful. The scar-like markings that once glowed on his body had faded into faint silver lines, visible only when the moonlight touched his skin. To the villagers, he was both a mystery and a blessing. They called him the River Child. Every morning he went to the water's edge to give thanks, pouring libation from a small clay cup. To the spirit that guards us, he would say, his voice steady but filled with feeling. And to the mother who lives in the deep. The villagers had long accepted that Mama Ogechi was gone, yet they spoke of her with reverence. They believed her spirit had become part of the Oma River, guiding the currents, blessing their harvests, and protecting them from floods. Every full moon, they lit lanterns and set them afloat, their soft glow drifting down the current like stars across the water. But for Cheek, the river was never silent. Sometimes, in the hush between night and dawn, he would hear a familiar hum rising from beneath the surface. His mother's song, twined with another, softer melody, Amara's. He had not seen the water spirit since the day he awoke, yet he felt her presence always, in the shimmer of the waves, in the hush of the reeds, in the way his heart stirred when the wind carried her name. He had stopped trying to understand it. Love, he had learned, was not meant to be understood. It was meant to be honored. One evening, as he sat by the riverbank, Elder Namdi joined him, leaning on his staff. The old man's hair was white as foam, his eyes gentle. "You have done well, Chaik," he said. "The river is kind again. The people live without fear." Cheek smiled faintly. "The river is alive because it remembers her." The elder nodded. "A mother's love can tame even the gods." He paused, gazing out over the water. "But tell me, my son, have you ever thought of leaving this place, of seeing the world beyond Aleoma?" Chiki was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "My roots are here. The river is my beginning and my end. Wherever I go, it follows." The elder chuckled softly. "Then you truly are her child." That night, after the elder had gone, Chiki remained by the water until the stars brightened the sky. He dipped his hand into the cool current, and the water shimmered, glowing faintly around his fingers. From the depths, a voice rose, soft and familiar. "You've kept your promise." He turned sharply, heart racing. There she was, Amara, her form faint and luminous, standing on the river's surface. She was more spirit than flesh now, but her beauty had not dimmed. "Amara, you live as she wished," Amara said, her voice like music. "The balance is restored." The river breathes again. He stepped closer. "I thought I'd never see you." "You never stopped seeing me," she whispered. "Every ripple, every breeze, I am there. But my time in this world fades. I came to thank you, and to tell you that love does not die. It only changes form." He nodded, tears filling his eyes. "Will I ever see her again?" Amara smiled sadly. "Every time the river touches your feet, every time the rain falls on your roof, she is with you. The river keeps what it loves." She reached out, touching his cheek. The water around them glowed brighter. "And one day, when your journey ends, you will return, not as a mortal, but as part of the river's song." Then she was gone, dissolving into mist and moonlight. Chiki stood there for a long time, his heart full and calm. He looked up at the stars, then down at the glowing river. "The river remembers," he whispered. And it did. Years turned into generations. The story of Chiki and the river spirit became legend, told by firelight, sung in lullabies, carved into wood and stone. Parents warned their children never to mock the river, and lovers left flowers by its banks to bless their unions. They said that when the moon was high and the water still, two figures could be seen walking hand in hand upon the surface, a young man with silver marks on his skin, and a woman radiant as starlight. Together, they guarded Aleoma's peace, forever bound by love and sacrifice. And so the people of Aleoma learned this truth. The river may take, the river may give, but it never forgets those who love it truly. The river flows still, carrying stories older than time. It remembers every sacrifice, every whisper, every love that refused to die. Chiki became more than a man. He became a memory carved into water, a promise kept by the current. And somewhere beneath the surface, his mother's song still lingers, soft as moonlight on ripples. Maybe that's what love truly is. Not something we hold, but something that holds us. Tell me, what would you give up for someone you love? If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification button so you never miss out on our latest intriguing stories. Thanks for watching.